Hey everybody, John Malanca here with United Patients Group. Be informed and be well. And special guest today. I know I always say special guest, but this one is really hits home. It hits home because it's someone that has had some good and the bad and the ugly happen, but turning around what we all go through in life sometimes are more intense than others. Mine was losing Corinne, my wife, to pancreatic cancer, and still having to be here on this earth and surviving and not giving up, and in turn paying it forward. And that was something that I've done all my whole life, as well as what Corinne and I, why we started United Patients Group, but paying it forward for those in need and being that support system and that bright light for many out there who need a bright light. I need a bright light. And so this guest today, Michael O'Brien, when his team reached out to me, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm like, I would love to have Michael on. And so, Michael, truly a pleasure having you here. And I can't wait for you to share your story with my audience of adversities and where we're going. And before we start, I know you see a background here. I am in sunny Malibu, California, and I've been honored to film my podcast in Cure Medical Spa. Dr. Lisa Benya is an osteopath here in Malibu, been down here for about 25 years, very, very well known. But why I love her is because she is a Midwest girl. She's actually married to one of my best friends, but takes a Midwest approach to medical, meaning carrying the bag, doing house calls, and really taking care of the patient. So I just wanted to give a shout out here, and I thought it was a perfect match for Michael to be here today. So Michael, you're on, my friend. How are you?
Good, John. It's so awesome to be with you. I know, like, when we first connected, for me, it was like, well, we could talk for hours. So totally stoked to be here. I'm not in sunny Malibu. I am in partly cloudy New Jersey, but I do appreciate Midwestern values, carrying the bag and getting a little dirt under the fingernails and all that good stuff. So I can't wait to have a wonderful conversation and hopefully share a few pearls or gems with those listening.
So as I mentioned, when Michael's team reached out to me, my audience has known that I'm an avid health, I guess, not only a weekend warrior, but a health guru, 7 days a week, and I'm a cyclist. And every time I get on the bike, and everyone worries that something's going to happen, either a crash or, God forbid, a car sideswipes me, and so that's in the back of my head every day. I do have my little mirror. I have my blinkers. I have everything, even on my little computer, showing me if cars coming up. This happened to Michael. A executive, living life, young, healthy, and going out and something awful. And I'll let you go into the story. But that happened. 10 years ago. How long ago? Yeah.
Well, now 22 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah,
2000.
so
Sorry, my apology.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah.
So you had it right, John. So I was 33 at the time. My wife and I had been married 7 years. Come May of 2024, we'll be married 30 years. Our two girls were really young at the time, 3.5 years old, 7 months old. And I've been an avid cyclist my whole life. Like, I still remember the first day I came off the training wheels. I was the last kid on the block to come off the training wheels. I was a little cautious, and kids would tease me, at least this is my memory. But I came off of training wheels and I was like, whoa, this is cool. I could go places. For me, if I had to sum up what the bike means to me, it's freedom, right? A chance to explore, and it's a little bit of solitude, like silent time, maybe meditative, if you will. And I know a lot of other cyclists can appreciate that. I know you can. And I had a little bit of an affair with running. Once I got into my professional life, did a few marathons. But after the birth of our second child, I wanted to get back into cycling more and actually get back to racing. And I brought my bike out to a company meeting out in New Mexico, which was north of Albuquerque and south of Santa Fe. So it was in the middle of the desert in New Mexico. A new resort had been put up there. One of those Monday through Friday type of business meetings that we used to do back before the pandemic. And I have this goal of riding my bike in every one of the 50 states.
Awesome.
And New Mexico had not been conquered. So I brought my bike out and found a 2-mile loop out the back service road and then up the main drag. And I thought I would do 10 laps, 20 miles, breathe in the air of New Mexico and be sitting there as they tried to torture us with PowerPoint and team building activities. But I was like, I got my ride in, maybe multiple rides as the other guys were playing golf. And on the morning of July 11th, I came around a bend and a Ford Explorer was coming right at me. The police estimate that it was going about 40 miles an hour. It was fully into my lane. And I was like, he sees me, right? He sees me, he's gonna swerve, like what's happening? It was all surreal. Slow motion started to play into the picture. Everything started to slow down and he didn't move. And I couldn't move fast enough. And I remember the sound I made when I hit his grill, the sound I made as I went into the windshield. I still can recall the screech of his brakes. And then I made a thud when I came down to the asphalt. And I was knocked unconscious, as you could imagine. And then I regained consciousness a few minutes later, surrounded by emergency technicians, police, ambulance, fire. It was crazy. I was in the worst pain of my life. And what I did back then, when it was a little stressful, I would use a little humor to cut the tension. And I was like, "How was my bike?" And they're like, your bike's fine, sir. I just tried to breathe. And my bike was not fine. I was not fine. And I just remember lying there as I waited for the medevac, thinking, this is not how it's supposed to end. Like, this isn't part of the script. Like, what the heck is happening? Like, this wasn't supposed to happen. And I just remember willing myself to stay awake because I thought if I lost consciousness again, I would never regain it. So I just was like, stay awake, come on, stay awake, keep up. And then they flew me to Albuquerque. The first surgery took about 13 hours. The next few days I was in the ICU. My wife flew out with our youngest, and the doctor said, your husband's been in a very bad accident. We did the best we could. The next 48 hours are going to be essential. And that's when the recovery journey starts to begin. It's a crazy story. It's one of those things that you don't think it's going to happen to you.
Oh boy.
Until it happens to you.
Yeah. I'm glad the story has a better ending than others that I've heard out there. And thank you for sharing. You talk about therapy and meditation and mindfulness and breathing and just being able to be taken away on your rides. And that is a reason why I ride. That's my therapy. And I have a t-shirt that my little goddaughter got me. It said "My Therapist," and it's a bicycle. And so again, I think about and had close calls, just like what you were experiencing and what you shared. So you've changed. That was 2021. We're 2001. We're 2023 right now. And it wasn't a quick recovery. I'd like you to get into that, but also let's talk about, because you changed your whole life, your whole career, pretty much, and to pay it forward. And you call it your last bad day. And for anybody that's gone through something like an accident, illness, death, grieving, etc., we always look back and we'll never forget those days, those dates, where you were, what you felt like. I'm a numbers guy, and so I know dates. People say, "How do you remember those dates?" That's like, those are the things you don't forget. The day your child's born, the day you get married. It's things like that. Hopefully, you don't forget your wife's anniversary. But let's talk about not leading from beautiful wife anniversary to what you call your last bad day. But if you go into that, share what you call your last bad day and what you have made out of that last bad day and where we are today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, we definitely don't want to forget critical birthdays, John, or anniversaries, right? So, but hopefully whoever your partner is, they have some grace in case you forget, right? So,
Yeah.
so my last bad day, the reason for that label is not because it's all unicorns and rainbows and an endless supply of Skittles. It really is sort of foundationally in a parable, a Buddhist parable called First Arrow, Second Arrow. And so the way the story goes is that there is a great warrior and she's walking through the woods and she gets hit by an arrow. And the forest is really dense, so she doesn't see where the arrow comes from. And of course, this arrow hits her and it's quite painful to be hit by an arrow. But then she starts thinking about, who shot this arrow at me? Where'd this come from? Why'd this happen? Can I get out of the forest? Oh, I'm in great pain. So the first arrow causes great pain and suffering. The second arrow is the one that she shoots at herself with all of her worry and anxiety and rumination. And we do this all the time. Like, things happen in life that are painful. They cause suffering, like my accident, your wife's passing, other things that have happened. And then we can add to it. It doesn't mean that we don't have emotion, certainly. But what we want to be mindful of is, are we giving this moment more fuel than it deserves? So it can be like simple things like you're out in California, getting stuck in traffic, and then you're going to be late, right? So first arrow is that traffic has happened. Well, like, hello, you're in California. The second arrow is like, oh my God, I'm going to be late. I can't believe this. Why is this happening? Like, why is this traffic jam? All that stuff, all that energy. So there was a moment in my recovery when a mentor called, and I was trying to put on a brave face from the exterior. And then inside, though, I was a mess. My identity got flipped upside down. It was shaken violently. The doctors painted a pretty grim picture of my future. They said, listen, you're going to have a lot more surgeries, a life of dependency. You're probably not going to walk well ever again. You'll probably never ride your bike again. I saw myself as, a father, a husband, an executive, but also an athlete. And I thought a lot of that, all that sort of was taken from me. It was all happening to me. And this mentor called and he was like, how are you doing? I was like, you really want to know? He goes, yeah, I really want to know. And I backed up the dump truck and I dumped it all. And he said, listen, you have every right to feel like you're the victim. And a lot of people are validating that you're a victim because something horrific happened to you. But everything that happens to you is neutral until you label it. And you get to choose your labels in life. And at first, John, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, everything is neutral until you label it. I was like, what is this, like Jedi mindset, mumbo jumbo? It's like, everything is neutral until you label it. And you get to choose your label. So he said, you get to label this day and this experience any way you want. You can label yourself as a victim, or you can choose a different label. And admittedly, I didn't get to that first. Like, I was still pissed off at the world. But I let it sit and I realized, okay, if this is true, everything is neutral. Viktor Frankl has a quote that's often referenced on the internet. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which is one of my favorite books. And he basically said that between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is your freedom, and that freedom is your growth. And so he's talking about just that space of neutrality between what happens in life and then what you do about it. And so I was like, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to call that day my last bad day. And it foundationally, one of the cornerstones is gratitude. And so the way I look at it is that I can have bad moments during the course of my day, first arrow, bad moments. But I'm going to be really mindful not to shoot a second arrow at my bad moments so they turn into a bad day or longer. And the way I look at it, if I have people who love me and I love back in my life, like my girls, my wife, and friends and other family, then I can't chalk the whole day up as a bad one, because I still have people I love and who love me in my life. So yeah, so I've had plenty of bad moments, challenging moments, irritating ones, frustrating ones. The list can go on, but I've been really careful not to add fuel or shoot a second arrow at some of those moments. And it's not completely literal, right? So if we have someone that we lose in life, right? That moment lasts a long time. We grieve for a while. It's just not a moment. But still, even in that grieving process, there are other brighter moments in the day. So the day is a collection of different moments, and we get to choose how we want to label that day. So that's how it came to be known as my last bad day. Again, it goes all the way back to that parable of first arrow and second arrow. And the recovery, to your point, it hasn't been smooth. It certainly hasn't been linear. I've had moments where I've made great progress and moments where I've gone all the way back to go and I didn't collect $200. So it's been rough, but here's the thing. I'm here today because of the people around me. So I put in the work, no doubt about it. I did the surgeries, I did the rehab, I had the self-reflection, the navel gazing, all that. But I had a whole bunch of people, close friends, family, strangers, medical team members that, we were all sort of we were acting as one big Peloton as we went down the road. Sometimes you're, as you know, John, sometimes you're out in front blocking the wind for the other riders. And sometimes you just need to grab someone's wheel. And most of the time I was grabbing onto someone's wheel, but I like to think now, 22 years later, that I'm taking a pull or two and sharing the load a little bit more than I did maybe in the early days of my recovery.
It takes teamwork and friends and family and your drive and what's the fire inside you. Hearing you and reliving what I've been through the last 6 years. I look at old pictures and I'm thinking, man, some days I don't even recognize that guy, and we had and I was happy. And I look back and I'm thinking, I did go through the why me, I did go through the anger. How could this happen to me? How could this be the end of our chapter, our book? But I still get up every day, and I've done a lot of that on my own. I've done a lot of that with support, not only with family and friends, but grief support groups. And it's everyone's. I always share with everyone going through something like this is that we all have our journey. You talk about little things don't piss me off as much as they do. They did. On my bike, I'm flying, bum, and it comes to a stoplight. I'm like, now, you know what I say? And I think even more so since I met you back in July, which was an honor. It was actually your anniversary day when we first spoke. I come up and I see a stoplight, green, yellow, red, and I stop. I said, you know what? Maybe that saved me from something. And the other day, I kid you not, I hit 5 stoplights in a row. And I'm like, okay, take it down a notch, take it down a notch. And so every day I learn. And so hearing your story and sharing what keeps you going. And, sometimes you're leading that Peloton, sometimes you're just drafting, and we are here. I recently did, and I'm a runner as well. And I recently did a Spartan race a couple months ago. And, we're the same age. I just turned 56 last month. But I was on this race, hot day, running up, doing these obstacles. But I remember I was just gliding. I didn't have any pain in my body. And I remember, and when when I run and ride, thoughts come in, not only with my personal stuff, but also with work. I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is how I can put the pieces together. This is how I can do this. But I remember being on that run and going, sun's on me, I'm dripping sweat, I'm feeling great, I'm gliding. And I said, I made it. I made it. And I'm still trying to make it, but I made it, after what going through diagnosis of Corinne and what she went through, ailment, passing, grieving, surviving, so we all go through different recoveries, I should say. I know you did with your pain and your recovery. But a lot of times too, when you talked about your therapist, I don't know if it was your mind therapist or body therapist, but sometimes, and I'm guilty of that, is that it's easier to share. Like we don't practice what we preach sometimes, and it's easier to be able to be the light for someone else and share and say, this is what you need to do. Why are you doing it? And then you look back, you're like, hell, I'm not even doing that. I need to reread my book, my story. And so, but I learned a lot, and I'm still learning. And so when we go through something like this, if it's ailment, losing a job, grief, accident, what did you discover about yourself, and others when you went through this?
A whole bunch. I love what you just shared, by the way, John. So yeah, sometimes we don't take our own advice. That's why I do believe if we're in the field of providing support as a coach or a therapist or a podcast host, it's good to have other people in our lives that we can bounce things off of, just to keep us honest, right? So there's a lot. I think there's a couple different things that, for me, like in the early days of my career, I was, this is sort of a common reference current day, but back then it was a little bit different. So 2001, it's before the internet, as we know it today.
Yeah.
That I was chasing my happiness. I was thought that, like, you get to a certain title or you get certain possessions. And I wasn't a huge material possession kind of guy, except maybe bike equipment. So I wouldn't consider myself a car guy. I didn't really want a huge house because I wanted a homey house. So we were all together as a family. But I did want to, what I wanted to feel heard. And so the unpacking I've done is, when I had moments of tension or stress or misalignment, I felt like I wasn't being heard as a young kid, through high school, college, professional. And I thought if I got to a certain level of my company, people would finally hear me. And because a little hello, ego, I had so much goodness to share, right? And that kept me striving and on this hamster wheel, this chase for status. And through my recovery, and again, there are moments where I was like, all right, we're in growth mode. And then there are some times where we're in recovery mode because I've had multiple surgeries. And 2 years ago, I had my left knee totally replaced. So that was another recovery phase. But over the years, I've been able to unpack it. I like to say I've emptied rocks from my backpack. I think we all carry around a backpack. We are all on these journeys, as you mentioned. Well, when you're on a journey, you have a backpack, and we put a lot of rocks in our backpack. And those are old narratives or limiting beliefs or other narratives, who knows, that we carry around with us. And it feels just like, well, that's just how the backpack feels, but it really does weigh us down. And with a little bit of this reflective work, contemplative work, we can start unpacking some of the rocks that we put in over the years for whatever reason. Sometimes it's little T trauma, sometimes it's big T trauma for other individuals. And then we can put in our backpack things that are a little bit more abundant, healthier, graceful, more compassionate, more kindness. And so what I wrestled with at first was like, all right, where is this notion of not feeling heard? Where does it come from? And what's a different way of approaching, a different way of being? And so I've been able to unpack that. And that's been really helpful because, as you know, in what you do and what I do now, because there is social media, there are a whole bunch of metrics that will give you some indication, are people listening to you? And what I've done is been able to say, like, I'm just going to put as much goodness and kindness out into the world, and I have faith it's going to reach who it needs to reach. And I'm not going to get all wrapped up around the axle about how many followers I have or what the engagement is and all that jazz like that. I have moments, because I'm human, where someone will post something and be like, why is that so popular? I don't get it. But I come back to my breath, I slow it all down, I realize, all right, just put out your goodness and hopefully use this accident, this last bad day, as a story to help other people avoid having their big moment. Because I do believe we can change without going through some of the things that are more extreme, like the passing of your wife, my accident, and other things. I do believe that we all have the power of change, and we don't have to go through something so dramatic in order to take that first step. And so I share my story and I try to role model what I'd like to see in the world. I want the world to be kinder. I think a kinder world is more peaceful. And with more peace, more people can be heard and seen and loved. And I think that puts us in a better position of solving the complex problems that face us today, and certainly will be here tomorrow and beyond.
Do you think having this mindset change sometimes happens to individuals like us when something extreme, what happened to the two of us, changes our mindset? It's like little things don't set me off anymore, or a red light, you know. I know that you're into mindfulness and breathing. I catch myself, you know, doing your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it works. And I share that and have shared that. Go outside, take a, you know, close your eye, take in the sunlight and for 5 seconds, breathe, take your 5 breaths, and then come back. And I share that with even couples. I don't know why I'm a couples counselor, but I become that with my friends. It's like, John, help. And but I would say, stop, have a safe word, walk outside, count to 5, count to 10, count to 20 if you need some time, and come back and say, where were we, Michael? You know, and go in there. And so I know that you have been doing this since 2000, 2001. And now it's starting to catch on, because I have other friends that are into this, and it's like, this is old news. This has been going on for, I mean, we've been doing this for years, and now you guys are talking about it. And now you're seeing a lot of these conventional medical institutions that are incorporating this. And it's like, really? You know, come on. Now you're doing it when you thought we were a bunch of kooks before going through this. But can you talk about how you incorporate the mindfulness and I guess, switch as well for mindfulness and breathing, and how that benefits you to keep calm?
Yeah, great question, John. So this all began when I was still in the hospital, and I was at a point in my recovery where I wasn't making the type of progress I wanted to make. So keep in mind, I was still like type A, charge, executive, get stuff done. Why am I not getting better faster? Like, why are these other people getting better faster than me? Comparisonitis, like all that stuff. So that was still like a big part of who I was back then. And then I took a page out of my athletic book and I was like, you just got to slow down, brother. Like, you got to breathe. Going back to what the EMTs said to me when I asked them, how's my
Fine.
bike? They were like,
Yeah.
breathe.
Yeah.
And as an athlete, I was just watching, like, over the weekend, the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, and they went into penalty kicks. And then before each penalty kick, each player took a breath. And so I knew before big shots, before big moments in all my athletic endeavors, I would breathe. And so I didn't know really anything about mindfulness or meditation back in 2001. What I did know about it, again, very little, I thought was a little corny, a little hippy dippy, a thing, no offense to Californians.
California. I use that
It was
term.
like, it was, some people would say woo woo. Any way I would describe it, it was like, it's not something a serious executive would do. But something told me that you had to slow it down because my recovery was so overwhelming. There was so much to it. Sometimes I just didn't know what to do. I was stuck because I was so overwhelmed. So the next morning, I went to a quiet place in the hospital. I got out of my hospital bed into my wheelchair, rolled myself to a quiet place, and I did a box breathing pattern for the first time. And I was like, well, okay, I felt good. And I set my intentions for the morning. And
Can you share with the audience what that box breathing pattern is?
Yeah, it's a really simple one. It's the Navy SEALs do it as well. So I think a lot of its fame probably current day gets associated with them. But it's a simple breathe up for a count of 4, maybe 5. Hold your breath for a count of 4 or 5. Exhale for a count of 4 or 5, and then hold again for 4 or 5. So that, if let's just say it takes 16 seconds to go a whole box. So you're making a box with your breath. And I did that for about 5 minutes. And I went on later to call these my pause, breathe, reflect breaks. So it was just, and pause was significant because I wasn't necessarily stopping because I still had stuff to do, right? I was just, it's only a pause. I'm still going to make progress. I'm going to pause. I'm going to breathe. And then the reflect piece is a big one. The reflect piece is that space to say, okay, Michael, how do you want to approach your day? How do you want to show up? How do you want to be? What kind of ripple do you want to put out into the world? So my feeling is that if 8 billion of us on this big blue marble that we all share took 1 minute each day to pause, take some nice healthy inhales and slow releasing exhales, and reflected about what we wish to ripple into the world, we would have a more peaceful, loving planet. We're just rushing too much. We're going way too fast. And when we go so fast, you can't hear, see, and love each other like we can.
These things,
these things aren't helping. Technology in general is moving the pace. It's like that one cyclist you ride with is always trying to push the pace, and you're trying to keep up, and you're breathing quite heavy. And a lot of us have been able to keep up, but a lot of people have been like left behind because it's been way too much. So pause, breathe, reflect became the first start of my mindfulness and meditation gratitude practice. And then I went later on to study mindfulness-based stress reduction, became a qualified teacher, and then just recently launched my app called Pause, Breathe, Reflect. And it's really designed for busy professionals who say, or just busy people, you don't even have to be a professional, whatever that is current day.
Yeah.
But just people that have busy lives to say, you know what, I've heard about this mindfulness and meditation thing. I don't have 10 minutes in the morning to do this. Like my mornings are like crazy busy. And I'm like, cool, mine are too. So if you don't have 10 minutes in the morning, I bet you have 10 times throughout the day where you have 1 minute. Because over the years, I've met a whole bunch of people that might have a yoga practice, which is a good body, breath, alignment, contemplative practice, or a meditation practice. They do it in the morning, but by 10:30, there's a whole bunch of drama, or we're not meeting the world like we want to. And so my feeling is I want to give people a chance to take a very contemplative practice that can help you stress less and sleep better and weave it throughout your day. So it's not just a transaction that you do in the morning to say, check the box, I worked out and I meditated and now I'm good. I want to invite people to come back to their breath, to slow it down throughout the day so you can still remain intentional about how you want to show up for the people in your life, whether they're colleagues or family members or just a moment to yourself on your bike. So to me, it's that embodiment that I want to promote. Again, making it part of how you live as opposed to how we tend to gamify everything nowadays. And we even gamify meditation with your streak and this, that, and other thing. I want it to be a way of living that it's just what I do. I pause, breathe, reflect, because I can feel when I get stressful and I'm just going to pump the brakes, take a few breaths, and then reflect on how do I want to show up next.
Well, it's definitely caught on because on your website, you can see that the pause, breathe, reflect hashtag is really taken off. And
it's getting there. We're getting there. It's a
hopefully, with you being here, and I'll definitely be passing that around. But it's nice, and it's nice to work with like-minded people that have gone through trauma or just want to experience, a brighter light. I mean, we all, as you mentioned, the world is nonstop, and it doesn't look like it's going to be slowing down. And so that's the part where I say, go outside. We're sitting there glued to our computers. Go outside for 5 minutes. Set your timer. Go outside for 5 minutes. Move your feet. I move my feet all day long. I actually have a standing desk, and I'm standing 99% of the day, and it doesn't bother me. And I remember, not to get away from your thing, but I remember doing a blood test, and I'm a big fan of seeing where your blood work is, especially when we get to our age, what we're high in, what we're low in, what's going on. And I remember, this is back, I want to say 7-8 years ago, I did it, and my doctor said, actually it was longer, it was when we started United Patients Group. It was 2010, I think, and I was working, just starting this company and sitting in front of my computer for 15, 18 hours, not working out, not running, not riding, and I remember, I look at old picture, I'm like, holy moly. But, you're glued, and thank goodness, Corinne was with me 24/7. We started this company, so I was able to have my relationship and at the same time. But I remember my doctor did a blood test, and she said, I can tell you sit all day. I said, why? The oxygen in your blood is low. You're only using half the capacity of your lung. And I'm what? And she goes, do your hips hurt? Do your back hurt? Does your back hurt? And I said, yeah. And that was the moment I bought 2 stand-up desks for Corinne and myself. And I said, never again, never again. So movement is very important. And as you're saying, Michael, pause, breathe, reflect. The thing I do in the morning, I don't go to grab my phone and check my emails, because I would do that and my anxiety would go immediately. So now I don't touch it for, I don't know, half hour. I get up, have my little routine, make a little breakfast. We either go for a walk, but before that, then I'll look at it, and I just can ease myself. So why go from your REM sleep to peaceful morning, Snow White, 7 Dwarfs, birds chirping, email, and all of a sudden, you're intense right into the day. And so that's something that I personally do, and that I share. But breathing, counting is important, just trying to. I write things down now, meaning a list. And that was because of Corinne. I would say, I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. Why are you stressed? I have so many things to do. Write it down. And when you're done, you can see a list, cross it off. Oh my God, I had 10 things. I hit 6 of them today, but I crossed them off. Cool. I'll put those 4 on the top and add to it for the next day. And so I think doing a little of everything to make us balance, homeostasis, it will make us as individuals and be able to do that ripple effect. I love that when I read your bio about ripple effect, because I've always used that with education and the line of work that I'm in. Is it's not for everyone. My, United Pace Group and medical cannabis or other types of alternative medicine, or even meditation or breathing, but I always talk about the pebble in the pond with the ripple effect. If it gets out and hits one person, Michael, and Michael said, hey, I was on a podcast with, John with a podcast with Michael, and I learned about the box breathing, and I'll go tonight, with friends. I'm like, hey, there's something I learned today. And again, that is the ripple effect of going out. So thank you for sharing that. How's your health today? I know you mentioned you had a recent knee replacement, but you made a point of your bucket list to ride in all 50 states. Is that something that you're still doing? Are you still on your bike? Where are we today?
Yeah, so health today is really strong. Last year, I rode my bike across the country. So I still have a few of the states in the US to visit. Like I haven't been to Alaska. I have to go to the Dakotas. So, but last year, my wife drove the RV. I rode the bike. We hit 13 states, 41 days, did about 100 miles a day on a total knee replacement that was about only 11 months old. Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And so still riding, rode today. I'll be riding my bike across New York State come September. So still active, still doing events. I believe that every day I get to ride is a way to thank the people who saved my life. The doctors told my wife, hey, we're really not sure how your husband survived. He really is a bit of a miracle given the extent of his injuries. Because when the left femur shattered, it lacerated the femoral artery of my left leg. So that's really what put me in critical condition because I lost so much blood. So, and I do, I've become much like yourself, John, even more curious about other aspects of health. So I do my own blood work. I use Inside Tracker to do blood work every 6 months. It's a much more comprehensive blood panel than I can get from, say, a primary care physician. So I'm really trying to monitor that. A plant-based athlete. So that's something that's come with me through my recovery. And I do believe, to your point, is there are a lot of great tools out there, and not every tool is for everyone. I believe, obviously, in Western medicine, but I believe in holistic medicine and Eastern modality. So I try to take the good of all of it. Like Western medicine, like surgery, I needed a couple surgeries, but I do believe in the stuff that you promote. I do acupuncture. I obviously do meditation. So I have my own formula. And when I talk to people, I try to share, this is what I've done along the way. Here are some things that have worked. Here are some things that haven't worked. But I'm not saying that this formula is going to work for you. I want to encourage people to be curious with what recipe, what formula would work for them. Because we're very similar, but we're all different in our own ways. And I just want to invite people to bring mindfulness to the everyday moments so they can fully live and appreciate this wonderful gift that we have been given by whomever you choose to believe gave it to us, and really lean into it. And when we're mindful, we can pay attention to how we're showing up. We can be present so we can connect with people, connect with ourselves. And to your point, the whole ripple effect, we can put a good ripple out there, good energy out there that can make a significant difference when a whole bunch of us are rippling goodness. When we bring like-hearted people who are open to different mindedness together, I believe we can change the world in a very positive way and treat Mother Earth with kindness and treat each other with kindness, and hopefully have more peace out there.
What a great message. And that's what I try to do. And I'll be part of your ripple. How about that? Because
That's perfect. Well, I'm part of yours, John. So
yeah,
we're, since we've done this interview, we're stuck together now.
good,
So,
good.
like I will be coming out to California and we'll turn the pedals together in some form or
Well,
fashion.
on that note, I do have branded United Patients Group cycling jerseys, and so
Oh, wow. Very cool. I like the blue. It's nice.
I'll be sending one of these to you, and so
All right. Well, I will do a
uh,
little photo op,
awesome.
and I'll try to make sure that it looks like I'm going fast, even though I will say, slow is fast when I talk about my meditation practice. But we'll wear the jersey with a lot of pride, and we'll make sure it stands out amongst the local cyclists here in the New York area.
I love it, and so I'm going to take you up on that. I'd love to get a ride in with you as well, but be safe. And I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate your team reaching out. I get a lot of requests, and when your team reached out, I wrote back right away. I'm like, I'm in. Please let Michael know. I'd love to have a conversation. And we jumped on the call, and here we are today. And so thank you for telling your story. Thank you for sharing your heart, your family, and your passion, because we're here and we're still here, and there's a reason why we're still here. There's a lot of good in this world, and I think being great human ambassadors for this planet and Mother Earth, and I'll get the little hippy dippy Californian in me, but it's important. And when I do travel, and I'm very fortunate that I am able to travel and ride when I go. It's nice to meet other people, and nice to meet other people in different cultures that have the same mindset and just likeness. And so I appreciate technology to put us together, and I look forward to seeing you as well. And I appreciate your time. And if you want to share with my audience one more time about your app and a little more about it, go please.
Thanks, John. And yeah, I can't wait we'll definitely, a ride together is definitely in our future. So no doubt about that. So yeah, people can find me. They can go to pausebreathereflect.com. They can go to the App Store or Google Play and download the app. It's also called Pause, Breathe, Reflect. And again, very much designed for people who are busy, people who are not really sure about this meditation. I show people how to do it without any judgment, in a very loving community. We do a live practice Monday through Friday, plus all the different meditations on the app. And I try to make it really relatable. I believe we can drop in and come back to our breath, regardless of where we are. It could be Midtown Manhattan or on the beach at Malibu. Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be in this pristine meditation spa-like environment. We should be able to come back to our breath. It's something that we all share, and slow down and be more thoughtful about how we're approaching this wonderful thing called life. So thanks again, John, for having me on, and keep pedaling, brother.
Keep pedaling, and I'll be thinking about you with the wind in my face as well. And so everyone, Michael Bryan, thank you very much. John Malanca here with United Patients Group. Be informed and be well and be safe. Wishing you a blessed day. We'll see you soon. Have a great day.